Welcome to the Texas Values Report. This is Jonathan Saenz, president of Texas Values. Great to be with you on another glorious week in the state of Texas. You know, it's one of my favorite weeks of the year. It is not Christmas. It's not Easter. It's not even the first weekend of a Texas Longhorn football game, okay? It is the week of the Texas Values, Faith, Family, and Freedom Forum. We're calling it for short this year Texas Faith Fest because that's a lot to say. Texas Values, Faith, Family, and Freedom Forum. All right. So hashtag Faith Fest. We'll make it easy for you. So that's tomorrow. All right. If you're watching this live, that means Friday, September 13th. Wait a minute. Is that weird? Friday the 13th? Don't worry about it. We're going to be in a church. God's in control. We're going to have an amazing event. And I'm going to break some news. Do we have the graphic ready for that? Okay, before we introduce our guest, and I'll talk about it later too, but this was confirmed last night. We were getting some other details in place this morning. Vivek Ramaswamy, all right, business leader, best-selling book author, and presidential candidate earlier in the year, is making an appearance at our event. I'm like, wow, this is going to be cool. Now, it is via video. We don't have details on when and all that. When we get those, we'll provide those. But super excited about that. I met him in person when I was a delegate at the RNC in Milwaukee, and the guy is just electric, okay? I mean, in the way he speaks, the things he talks about, and his energy. So I'm confident, like I'm doing now, that's going to come through on video. So check the website, texasfaithfest.com. You can see all the details. I'm going to run through a bunch of the speakers in just a minute. One of those is our guest today on the Texas Values Report. Corey DeAngelis, some people describe him as a school choice evangelist. He's got quite a career and history in this type of work, including at the Texas legislature. Been very involved in school choice efforts. He's got a book out right now, Parent Revolution, and I think he knows a little bit about parenting as well firsthand because he is a new daddy. So we might have him talk a little bit about his daughter. Corey, welcome back to the Texas Values Report.
Hey, Jonathan, thanks so much for having me.
Well, listen, I'm looking forward to seeing you this weekend. The panel that you're speaking on is on Saturday. Going to be Mandy Drogan's on that panel. It's going to be moderated by our good friend Matt Makoviak, who does a lot of work here in the area. He's the Republican Party, Travis County Republican Party chairman, but he's done a lot of work in policy and around the Capitol for many years and has a good handle on this issue. So I'm excited about that. Look, timely topic. We see this being talked about. I believe President Trump mentioned it on the debate, the school choice issue earlier this week. I know you told me before we came on there's some movement in Congress, but for many of us, the big question is what's going to happen in January when the legislature meets. But I guess the question I want to start with, and this is a softball for you, right? Are we in a better chance than we were 2 years ago when the session started for school choice here in Texas?
No, we're in a way better chance. Well, there's been national momentum. We've had 12 states pass universal school choice for every family, no restrictions on income, background, or zip code. Every family can take their money to the public, private, charter, or homeschool of their choosing in these 12 red states. And now in Texas, the primaries on Super Tuesday went really well, the runoffs as well. We've picked up 14 votes on school choice in the Texas House. The Senate has had the votes for a long time. In the House, you had 21 so-called Republicans voting with all the Democrats last year to block their own party platform issue of school choice. After the primaries, 14 of them are gone. That basically never happens in politics. That's a political earthquake. Incumbents usually win their reelection 95% of the time. In other words, they only lose about 5% of the time. They lost about 67% of the time in the Texas primaries on the issue of school choice. And so we have the votes for school choice now. Abbott has made this pretty clear based on our counts as well. We have the votes for school choice. Now we still have November. Perhaps we pick up some more Republican seats for people who support school choice as well. That would put us in an even better position. Some other signs of good news is that, look, I said 21 voted against school choice on the Republican side of the House. 7 of them remained. 2 of them signed on to a pledge to support universal school choice.
And who were those? Do you remember, and specifically who those 2 were?
I don't remember the specific names,
okay.
But 2
we'll
of the
have you
7,
get them to us later.
We'll
post it, yeah.
Yeah, posted them online. And then the other whiff of good news is that Dade Phelan, the Speaker of the House, who narrowly survived his reelection by a few hundred votes, he put out his policy preferences or priorities going into next session. And guess what? For the first time, he listed school choice as one of those policy priorities. Now, you might say, oh, I don't believe him. Is he really being honest about this? Why did he wait this long? But at the end of the day, the reason I bring it up is it doesn't matter. I mean, the reason
it's an indicator,
matter, but it's an indicator of things to come, that the political winds are shifting towards our favor.
Yeah, well, and I should say it's an indication of movement. Whether it will materialize will be another question, but it's certainly different than what we've seen before, and some indication that things that you're doing, other people are doing, are having an impact. And that's what all of us are trying to do. Whether people want to characterize it one way or another, you're trying, to have some type of influence or have an impact to see a different result, because the Texas legislature did not pass school choice last time. We saw some movement in the Senate, and then there was some efforts in the House, but ultimately a bill did not get sent to Governor Abbott's desk for that to come into existence. So real quick, too, while we're here, when we're doing this broadcast, I'm going to share it on my Facebook feed so we can get a few more people to see this conversation on social media. If you're on YouTube, like our channel, subscribe, all that stuff that the marketers tell you to do so we can have more people about this conversation. But you touched on several things. Am I right? Did I remember this correctly? Because there was a lot to remember that school choice came up in the presidential debate on Tuesday. Did Trump mention it once? Was that right?
No, they actually did not mention the word education at all during this most recent
why I thought
debate.
I heard that. Okay. Thank you.
He was at a campaign rally in Las Vegas and mentioned universal school choice as his priority. He says everybody supports school choice. It's a big thing. Yeah. So it is one of Trump's main priorities. And guess what? In Congress right now, for the first time in U.S. history, a school choice bill nationwide passed out of a committee. That's never happened. It goes to the U.S. House floor next. It was a party line vote. Republicans control the House. And so even if we don't control the Senate right now, this is, again, major momentum. And Trump would, I would expect, sign into law that bill, the Educational Choice for Children Act. So that's real momentum at the national level as well. And it doesn't interfere with his plan to abolish the Department of Education at the federal level, because the program is not run and it's not regulated by the federal Department of Education. It's a federal tax credit allowing you to keep more of your own money for education expenses.
Well, look, there's going to be a lot of talk about this issue at our event, Texas Faith Fest. Go to texasfaithfest.com. You can go to our main website, txvalues.org, or texasvalues.org. We have both URLs. Whichever gets you there easier. It's Friday and Saturday. This is a 2-day educational event. 3 simple goals: educate, motivate, and activate people on the issues of faith, family, and freedom. The school choice panel will be on Saturday earlier in the day. And just a few hours after that, at about 1 o'clock or 1:30 on Saturday, we're going to have a panel about the Speaker of the House race, so to speak. People that are challenging to run against Dade Phelan are going to be on that panel, 3 of the 4. We've got Dr. Tom Oliverson, state representative from the greater Houston area. We've got James Frank, who just joined the Speaker race, if you will, and announced, I believe, on Tuesday that he intends to run for that position. He's out of the North Texas area. And then also Shelby Slauson, who is, I believe, west of Fort Worth and a little bit of Fort Worth, State Representative Shelby Slauson, and Briscoe Cain, who's not running for Speaker of the House, but was a Dade Phelan supporter, if you will, and has publicly communicated that he stepped away from that support. And I think he's a part of the group of legislators that are saying we need a different leadership in the Speaker of the House seat. Look, I mean, Governor Abbott made this a priority item last legislative session. He made it an emergency item, right? That means you can start working on it right away. And yet we didn't see anything happen. The governor got very involved in these elections, many that you mentioned in some of those stats. He certainly was had a role in some of those outcomes. And so, but the question still remains, will that be enough? The numbers are there on paper. How do you size up, if you will, this? I mean, and I understand your point about Dade Phelan mentioning this in his priorities. Maybe that'll come to fruition. But it seems like any of those other, and then David Cook is also a candidate for Speaker of the House. He just can't make it onto our panel. Do those other 4 individuals represent a better chance, percentage-wise, of school choice passing?
I believe so. I mean, James Frank was the primary sponsor of the universal school choice bill in the Texas House. So he's an obvious supporter of school choice. Tom Briscoe, they're all supporters. Shellboy, they're all supporters of school choice, and that's been public knowledge. So, based on that background, I would say yes, it should be a higher percentage likelihood of that happening. But it is good news that Dave Phelan did list that on his, priorities going into next session.
Well, look,
he did brag about.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Brag about it. He bragged about a teachers union endorsement back in 2022, the Texas State Teachers Association. But look, I am happy to accept converts. If he is now
Right.
a school choice supporter and he wants to be public about that, I'm going to welcome him with open arms.
No, that makes a lot of sense. All right, let's talk about your book. Okay, Parent Revolution. I was having some fun with you. You're a new daddy, right? You got this beautiful young baby girl that, I'm sure and I remember that. I have a daughter who's my youngest out of 3 kids, and it's such a special time. First, how's the book doing?
Book's doing well. It's a national bestseller, and it was actually endorsed by President Trump. It's also endorsed by Vivek Ramaswamy, who's speaking at the conference on Friday. So it's doing really well. I actually dedicated it to Randy Weingarten and the teachers unions for overplaying their hand and inadvertently doing more to advance school choice and homeschooling than anyone could have ever imagined. They fought to keep the schools closed. They lobbied the CDC to do so. They were fear-mongering every step of the way. And guess what? They showed parents what was happening in the classroom, too much left-wing indoctrination, and families want education. So they've pushed for school choice, mostly in red states. Texas will be the biggest victory of all, and all eyes are on Texas next year.
No, there's no doubt. And I mean, look, there are like 30 states that have already done something on school choice. I mean, Texas is, far behind if you want to look at it that way. It's not like we're going to be the first ones to do it and it's some type of, project or experiment. There's a lot of other states to look to and look at the successes, and it's, it sort of highlights the fact that it's way beyond time for Texas to do something about it. And I think this is the best chance we've ever had. I said that last session. I think the chances have gotten even better. It's going to be interesting to see, as we get closer to January, how much Governor Abbott messages on this issue. And look, things could happen different in November. That Speaker of the House decision by the Republican caucus internally, it really can't happen until after the November elections because they need to know who the members are. But then that decision is one of the first things that happens in January, the second week of January, when the legislature convenes and comes together and starts their session in 2025. So there's a good bit of time between now and then. But, this is a lot of time where people are starting to ramp their efforts up a little bit. They're prepping legislation. They're starting to count their votes, all that kind of stuff. And so I would imagine we'll see Governor Abbott message a little bit more on the school choice issue as we move forward. Tell us about the baby girl, though, okay? We're a family organization. We want to hear about her.
Yeah, her name's Angelina Mae DeAngelis, and she's 6 weeks old, and my first daughter, my first child.
Yeah.
And I've never felt this kind of love before. It's amazing how much it transforms you as a person. So, yeah, she'll be there. She'll be there on Saturday.
Wow.
Saturday morning.
Okay.
And this will be our first road trip going over to Austin.
We're
from San Antonio.
Is it okay? And you and I were, I was having some fun with you about this, because I remember my days when my kids were in car seats and all that kind of stuff, and there can be quite a few stops, right? But that you get helped because there's like 2 Buc-ee's now, or maybe there's just one. There's another one on the way in San Marcos, but the traffic and the construction sort of forces you sometimes to stop coming up 35. But don't be surprised. I'm just saying, if your daughter gets more attention than you at the event, because you know how that can be.
Yep. It's hopefully, look, this is our first event. She's very young, 6 weeks old. It'll be an adventure. Everything's an adventure at this point. Everything's learning, how to do everything the right way. So it's a fun adventure. I'm glad I had my wife Miranda along for the ride as well.
Now we're looking forward to seeing you. TexasFaithFest.com is the event that Texas Values is putting on this weekend, Friday and Saturday. On Friday it's 10 to 4. On Saturday it's 9 to 4, right? Just in time for, some of y'all like me to leave after the event's over to make it to the University of Texas Longhorn versus UTSA game, which I will be there with my son, who's a student at UTSA right now. We're going to have some fun with that, with his dad being a Longhorn. But there's plenty in those 2 days. There's a dinner with Mike Huckabee on Friday night. The dinner is sold out, so if you didn't get your ticket, sorry about that. But we're going to have a fantastic group for this event. On Friday, We've got Michael Knowles, okay, 3 o'clock. 2 o'clock, Congressman Chip Roy, who's close to your area down there in San Antonio. Corey, has he been somebody that you've seen communicate about the school choice issue, by the way? I know Cruz has. Yeah.
Ted Cruz is a huge supporter as well. He has very consistently endorsed candidates, Ted Cruz has, on the issue of school choice. He also, by the way, endorsed my book. He's at the top. He says, you can ruin Randy Weingarten's day by reading this book. So that was a fantastic, probably my favorite endorsement.
You're bringing some copies of the book to the event, correct?
Yeah, I'll have at least a dozen copies. I'll bring. And
we talked about offline having you bring some.
Sign them.
So, spoiler alert, okay, Senator Cruz, we do have a video that we're going to show with some remarks that he wanted to be shown at the event. That's on Friday, and I do think he mentioned school choice, Corey. I'm just letting you know, right? So, a little bit more help there. We're excited about it. A lot of other great people, Senator Bob Hall. I mentioned some of the state reps, Coach Joe Kennedy, who won his football prayer case at the U.S. Supreme Court. Mandy Drogan's going to be on this panel with you, Corey, on school choice, and she really spearheaded and led the effort on school choice last session. Obviously, she's in a position with TPPF. How do you see that organization, and sort of what is, how's that mattered? I mean, I know it's been a big part of it, but that organization has tremendous reputation and a lot of history. I mean, I think without them, it's a lot tougher.
Yeah, Mandy Drogan was actually at the Texas Federation for Children at part of my organization, the American Federation for Children. Now she's at TPPF. We communicate every day on issues that are happening in Texas. So they are leading the charge. I mean, you saw Mandy. She was going to dozens of cities with Governor Abbott at schools, having him promote the issue of school choice. So TPPF is fantastic. They're doing great work. Texas Valley is obviously doing great work on the issue as well. And I'm here in San Antonio. I'm happy to be here in my home state of Texas. So this is personal for me, getting it done across the finish line here. I will say, I think I'm really optimistic, Jonathan, that this is going to happen. We've picked up 14 votes in the primaries alone, and 2 people have flipped who voted with the Democrats last year, Republicans signing a pledge to support school choice. Dade Phelan making that remark in his priority list, saying he supports school choice now for the first time publicly. And I think it's really even crystallized even more that school choice is a GOP litmus test issue. These Republicans, they don't want to mess with this kind of primary environment anymore. They don't want to deal with the parents pushing back. So even if they won their seats, there's a lot stronger likelihood that they're going to come out and support school choice, which is on their party platform.
I was at the State Board of Education this week, and they're working on these issues. They're going to meet on Friday and sort of finish up for the week, but they're not done with the work on this topic, and this is about what's being taught in classrooms as it relates to English and literature, and allowing the Bible and Old Testament mainly, but a lot of historical and literary references to the Bible that we know have been there. Shakespeare, has, I think, 1,300 references in his writings that relate to the Bible and religious liberty. And a lot of that touches on our godly heritage. And there was this big tug of war there. The sort of the usual suspects on the left, we were there supporting keeping these teachings in place. When this was voted on in the state legislature a dozen years ago or so, it was almost unanimous. Yeah, we're not teaching kids to become Christian. We're just teaching them about this history and as it connects to literature. But just another reason why people are, getting concerned and have growing concerns about what's happening in public education and looking for other opportunities. A lot of that is moms groups and parents groups that are springing up more. We've welcomed that help because a lot of times this is some very substantial work we're involved in, and there's not a lot of other groups doing it. And so I think that will roll into the legislature too with some help on the school choice issue. And so, but look, we're going to have a robust conversation. Corey DeAngelis is going to be there on Saturday with the family, all right, talking about the school choice issue. a very important topic. This event is specifically designed, not only, but in a large way, to talk about what we think is going to happen in the next legislative session, get people educated about it, help you understand the issues, connect with like who some of the players are, so to speak, the people that are involved in some of these different things, because that session doesn't last very long. I mean, it's just barely 5 months, 140 days. And so you got to be prepared. And we want people to be prepared when they communicate with their elected officials. They know the talking points, they know the background. You know, maybe they get a chance to get your book, learn a little bit more depth about some of these things if they want to talk about it. But I'm excited about having you there. I know you've spoken at different events we've had before. You bring a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm, and sometimes a little bit of controversy. By the way, how is your friend Trey Martinez-Fisher doing?
Oh, I mean, he's a hypocrite on the issue. He's one of the loudest opponents of school choice. He went to private school, sends his kids to private school, which I don't blame him for that. Everybody should seek out the best opportunities for their kids, but you shouldn't pull out the ladder from behind yourself and fight against opportunities for others, especially when you're the one trying to say that you're here to help the least advantaged. Well, guess what? The government school system is deeply unequal, and families don't have the same kind of opportunities. We should give the money to the parents and let them choose the opportunities that work best, partially based on test scores, but also as something you brought up a second ago, Jonathan, is that parents choose based on values too. They want their kid to go to a school that aligns with their values, that doesn't teach them critical race theory, that Marxist concept that divides kids based on immutable characteristics, and gender ideology. Parents want schools to focus on the basics, on education, not indoctrination.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it. Corey DeAngelis is going to be speaking at our event, the Texas Faith Fest. Still time to get tickets, texasfaithfest.com. $25 is general admission. That includes Chick-fil-A lunch on Friday, barbecue lunch. It's a brisket sandwich from our good friends at Rudy's on Saturday. Look, we're trying to make it affordable, but we know that this is not a fundraising event. This is about getting people in the door so you can be educated and hear from some of the most important, and look, I think experts on this issue. You know, prove me wrong that there's someone not only in Texas but in the country that knows the school choice issue and can talk about it, can, you know, push back and respond to the criticisms like Corey DeAngelis, right? Mandy Drogan here in Texas. So we're bringing some of the best and brightest for people to get that incredible experience and for them to move forward and do something with that knowledge. So we're looking forward to Corey being a part of that. You'll get to see him in person. He's going to bring some of his books, and he's going to bring his beautiful daughter and his wife. So it'll be a part of the family environment that you can enjoy as well. So Corey, hey, listen, I'm looking forward to seeing you on Saturday. We're going to have a great panel, and we appreciate you being a guest today on the Texas Values Report.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. Good to see you.
All right. Always good to have Corey. And I enjoy it too. And most guests are like this. I'm not saying others aren't, but, and I always have to work on this as the host of the show, is to try to say less and let the speakers say more. Corey does a very good job of that. Makes it a little bit easier to remind me of that, and for me not have to fill dead air or space time on the show. So some other speakers I didn't mention. The Texas for the Texas Faith Fest event starting tomorrow, sort of bright and early, 10 o'clock. We're starting earlier than usual, than before. If you come to this event several times in the past, and this is the 7th time we've done it, we usually start at 1 o'clock. Not the case this year. We're starting at 10. Part of that is to end a little bit earlier on Friday so we can get over to the Oasis where the private dinner is with Governor Mike Huckabee. And by the way, if you got one of those tickets, Michael Knowles is going to be there as well. Like, wow, I'm super excited about that. Even one of my kids wants to come to the event and meet Michael Knowles, so I kind of feel cool for a minute. But listen, 10 o'clock on Friday. Let me go through some of the other speakers, though. Coach Joe Kennedy, I think I mentioned that earlier. Melissa Oden, she's an abortion survivor. Good Lord. She runs the Abortion Survivors Network. Her story, her history, you know, her journey is absolutely incredible. The Texas Children's Hospital whistleblowers, I mentioned that. Dr. Heim, who was the resident that blew the whistle on Texas Children's Hospital, saying, we're not doing these gender transitions on kids anymore, when we were trying to pass a law on this last year, which we did, Senate Bill 14 by Tom Oliverson and Dr. Donna Campbell in the Senate. Well, he was there, and he was like, oh, no, they actually are still doing it. So there was some controversy and trouble on that, to the tune of the Department of Justice has indicted him. All right. Also on the panel, Nurse Vanessa Sivage. She believes that there's Medicaid fraud going on from Texas Children's Hospital. as a way for them to cover up what they were doing on these gender transition issues. Wow, that's going to be an incredible panel. I believe that is on Saturday. The whole schedule is listed on our website, txvalues.org, or go to the main event website, texasfaithfest.com. Newsmax is going to be there broadcasting on site. Chris Salcedo, video, radio. I'm doing a bunch of radio interviews on site in the morning. We got several exhibitors and booths, all kinds of great merchandise, including this cool hat debuting for the first time. If you can see that, that is a Christian cross in the middle of the Texas Lone Star on this hat. I'm loving this thing. A lot of other stuff there too. These are ways to just start conversations and get the message out there, and not, to not be afraid to show people what you believe in and be confident of that. I mentioned the Dinner with Mike Huckabee is sold out. If you want to get on the wait list, you can email Alex at awoodby or just info@txvalues.org. Maybe we can squeeze you in if some people miss, but go through the list. Sid Miller, Mary Margaret Olahan, just incredible speakers. The list is there, txvalues.org. Can't make the event? Check the live stream. You want to support what we do? These events do cost a good chunk of money. Please consider donating to us, like the State Board of Education work we were doing this week and a whole host of other things. txvalues.org. We are the largest organization of our type in the state of Texas. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We would be so delighted to have your financial support so we can continue to do the work we're doing. I'm going to say this last thing. This event could change your life. I went to an event like this when I was in law school, and I met the Christian lawyer Jay Sekulow, who was one of my heroes that I was looking up to, and I shook his hand, and I just remember that moment was so important to me on my journey to be able to do what I do now, and it made a difference. You could have that experience at our event, TexasFaithFest.com, this Friday and Saturday. Make a donation at txvalues.org right now so you can protect faith, family, and freedom in Texas. And we'll talk to you next week on the Texas Values Report.